I wasn't supposed to be there long. Just in and out, grab something decent for a charity gala my husband forgot to RSVP for. I had 20 minutes before school pickup. Hair still damp from a rushed shower. No makeup. Wedding ring snug on my finger. But something about that boutique. I don't know. It just pulled me in. It was one of those quiet little shops tucked between two louder ones, like it didn't need to compete. I liked that. The soft lighting, the perfume in the air. And the way the hangers slid smoothly on gold rails. Everything felt intentional. I wandered, fingers grazing fabrics I had no business falling in love with. Silks, crepes, satins. They weren't made for carpools and dinner duty. But they whispered to me anyway. Then he appeared out of nowhere, it felt like. I turned and there he was. Tall. Early 30s maybe. Sleeves rolled, clipboard in hand, but eyes steady. Kind. Not the kind of smile that says I'm paid to be nice to you. It was quieter than that. Calmer. You look like you know what you want, he said. I almost laughed. I don't. Not really. He didn't offer compliments. Didn't ask what occasion the dress was for. Just nodded. Then disappeared into the racks like some kind of wardrobe whisperer. Minutes later, he returned with 3 dresses. All totally different. All strangely perfect. Try them, he said. There was something in his tone. Not commanding. Not flirty. Just confident. Like he saw something I hadn't yet seen. I stepped into the fitting room. It was warm. Quiet. Almost too intimate for a Tuesday afternoon. As I slipped into the second dress. Deep green, silky, almost too bare across the back. I caught myself in the mirror. I didn't look like a mother of 2 rushing through errands. I looked, I don't know. Like a version of myself I hadn't met in years. I hesitated before stepping out. But when I did, he was already waiting. And the look in his eyes made me forget every reason I'd had to stay hidden. And then he said 5 words I can't stop hearing. This one is yours. I should have laughed it off. That would have been the safe thing. The normal thing. But the way he said it, not sleazy, not casual, more like he knew. Like he saw something in me the dress had woken up. This one is yours. I didn't know what to do with that. So I smiled, soft and unsure, and turned back toward the mirror. The fabric shimmered as I moved. The hem floated just above my knees. My shoulder blades were bare. I hadn't realized how long it had been since I'd worn something that made me feel. Then I felt him. Not close, not yet. But I saw his reflection in the mirror. Still. Watching. Respectful but not distant. May I? He asked, and I didn't even ask what he meant. I just nodded. And then slowly, deliberately, I felt his hand on the zipper. At the small of my back. He pulled it up in one clean motion. But his fingers, they hesitated at my waist. Rested there. A breath longer than necessary. I didn't breathe. Not out of fear, but out of something else. That trembling awareness. That split-second decision not to move. Not to ruin it. I was married. I had 2 kids. There were groceries in the trunk of my car. But right then all I could feel was the weight of his hand. The warmth of it. The silence between us. He didn't speak. He didn't move away. And somehow that was the most dangerous part. Because if he'd flirted, I could have rolled my eyes. If he'd touched more boldly, I could have stepped back. But this was careful. Almost reverent. Like he didn't want the dress off. He wanted me to feel what it did to me. And for the first time in years, I did. I wanted him to step away. But only a little. Just enough for me to breathe again, to remember who I was, what this was, how close I was to crossing some invisible line I didn't fully understand yet. But he didn't move. And neither did I. His hand, still resting just above my waist, was the only thing tethering me to the moment. And yet it felt like it was holding back 100 thoughts I wasn't ready to say out loud. He finally spoke, barely above a whisper. It's not just the dress, he said. It's how you feel in it. I felt my throat tighten. 'Cause I knew he was right. I didn't feel beautiful often. Not in the real undone way, not in the way that lives under your skin, not just on it. But standing there in that mirror I felt seen. And not just looked at, actually seen. I used to, I said, before I could stop myself. He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't have to. I saw the understanding in his eyes, the The kind of understanding that only comes from someone who's also lost parts of themselves in other people's lives. He stepped back, finally giving me space. But the silence he left behind was louder than any touch. I stood there, arms crossed loosely, trying to decide if I should change back. If I should walk out, thank him, forget the way his fingers had sent little sparks up my spine. But then he spoke again. Try the last one. His voice was steady, but something flickered behind it. A challenge. Or maybe a test. And I said yes too quickly. Not because I was interested in the dress, but because I wanted to know what would happen if I didn't stop this time. And as I slipped the final hanger from the hook, I already knew I wouldn't. It wasn't the dress that changed everything. It was the way I reached for it, slowly, almost careful not to wake something I couldn't put back to sleep. It was soft, ivory with the faintest shimmer, like light caught in water. I stepped into it like I was stepping into someone else's life. Someone freer. Someone who didn't need to check the time, or keep her voice quiet, or carry every invisible weight with a smile. The zipper this time was on the side, and I could manage it myself. But still, when I stepped out, he was already waiting. No clipboard now. No distance either. His eyes met mine first. Not the dress. Not the shape it made of me. Just me. And then his gaze dropped. Just enough to trace the line of the neckline. His mouth opened like he might say something. But he didn't. Instead, he stepped forward, not even a full pace. Just close enough that I could feel it again, that subtle shift in the air. The kind of closeness that makes you aware of every inch of your skin. I turned toward the mirror, and his fingers found the edge of the tag near my shoulder. He lifted it gently, like it was delicate, like I was delicate. Then his voice. Closer now. Lower. This one changes how you stand. I swallowed hard. Because he was right. My shoulders were back. My chest open. Chin lifted. I wasn't shrinking. For once I didn't want to. He was behind me now, just slightly, the mirror catching both of us in frame. And when his hand brushed my arm like he meant to adjust the strap, I didn't flinch. I felt the contact, soft then lingering. Heat blooming under skin that hadn't felt that kind of attention in far too long. He didn't ask if I liked the dress. He didn't have to. Because the way I looked at myself in it, the way I looked at him, it said everything I wasn't brave enough to speak. I forgot what it felt like to be wanted without being asked for. No pressure. No expectation. Just that quiet intensity. The kind that hums under the surface until it's louder than anything else in the room. He stood behind me. Not touching now. Just present. And somehow that was more intimate than anything else that had happened. I looked at our reflection, me in the dress, him in his stillness. And I thought, if I turned around right now, everything would change. But I didn't. Because I wasn't ready for it to change. Not yet. I needed to stay in that moment just a little longer, suspended between the woman I was and the one I used to be. I should go, I said, but even my voice didn't believe it. He didn't answer. Just watched me in the mirror. His eyes softer now, but still holding something back. And then, without a word, he stepped forward. Not all the way. Just enough. Enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath near my neck. The tension in his restraint. The way his fingers almost touched mine as I reached for the price tag. Almost. But not quite. I don't know why I whispered when I spoke again. Maybe because it felt too loud to say it out loud. I don't know what I'm doing. He smiled, a slow, quiet thing. Maybe you do, he said. You just haven't let yourself admit it yet. I looked at him then. Not through the mirror. Not with distance. Face to face. And I swear, for just a second, I saw something in his expression that scared me more than desire ever could. Recognition. Like he'd been here too. Maybe not this exact moment, but one like it. A moment where logic didn't matter. Where you stood on the edge of something you couldn't name but couldn't forget. And in that silence, I stopped pretending I wanted to walk away. He didn't kiss me. That's what made it worse. Because if it had crossed that line clean and obvious, maybe I would have snapped out of it. Maybe I would have walked out, flustered, ashamed, safe in the certainty of wrongness. But he didn't. He just stood there, still warm, waiting. Like he knew I needed to be the one to move. The one to decide. And that's what undid me. 'Cause I wanted to move. Not in the way I used to when I was younger, reckless, impulsive. No. This was slower, heavier. The kind of want that builds over years of being unseen. The kind that hides behind polite smiles and grocery lists. The kind that waits. And that day it stopped waiting. He reached for something on the small shelf beside the mirror. A velvet box with a ribbon. I hadn't noticed it before. He opened it and lifted out a necklace, delicate, gold, simple. And without asking, he stepped behind me again. "This would suit you," he said. And then, like muscle memory, I moved my hair to the side. He fastened it. His fingers grazed the back of my neck. Light. Barely there. But my whole body reacted like I'd been touched by lightning. I closed my eyes just for a second, because I knew if I looked at him, if I saw the expression he was wearing right then, I might forget who I promised to be. "There's a dressing room in the back," he said quietly finally. Not suggestive. Not pushy. Just a door. Left slightly open. And I stood there, heart pounding, every instinct screaming in contradiction. Because part of me wanted to run. And part of me had already crossed the threshold. What I did next, I still haven't told anyone. I didn't say yes. I just didn't say no. He didn't touch me again. He didn't need to. The silence between us did all the asking. And whatever lived behind that half-open door, I stepped toward it. Not fast. Not bold. Just drawn. Like something inside me had already gone ahead. And the rest of me was just catching up. The hallway to the back fitting rooms was narrow, the kind you don't notice unless you're looking for it. Each step echoed slightly on the hardwood floor. My heels sounded louder than they were. I didn't look behind me. I didn't need to. I knew he was there. Not chasing. Not leading. Just following, like someone who understood the weight of a decision and knew better than to rush it. The room was smaller than the others. Softer lighting. A velvet bench in the corner. A single mirror, tall and full-length, framed in brass. I stepped inside. And I waited. Not for him. For myself. To see if I'd turn back. To see if I could. But the truth is, I didn't want to. I wanted to feel something that belonged only to me. No roles. No labels. No ring. Just me. In a dress I never would have picked for myself. In a moment I never thought I'd let happen. He stood in the doorway. Not moving. Not speaking. And that somehow was the kindest thing he could have done. Because it gave me one last moment to decide. And when I finally met his eyes, I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. He stepped inside. Closed the door behind him. And the world for a while disappeared. What happened in that room didn't feel like cheating. Felt like remembering. I walked out different. But no one could tell. Not the other shoppers. Not the woman at the counter who folded the dress into a box and handed it to me with a polite smile. Not even my husband later that night, when I came home smelling faintly of perfume I hadn't worn in years. He asked how the shopping went. I said fine. He didn't look up from his phone. And I didn't say anything else. Because there are things you don't explain, not because they're shameful, but because they're yours. That room, that moment, that silence where two strangers existed without history or obligation. It didn't follow me home. Stayed exactly where it happened. And yet it changed everything. He didn't ask for my number. I didn't ask for his name. We didn't make promises or pretend it could be more. It wasn't a love story. It was a pause. A deep, necessary breath in a life that had become too quiet. I never wore the dress to the gala. It stayed in the back of my closet. Untouched, still folded, wrapped in tissue paper that smelled like warmth and memory. But sometimes, when no one's around, I slip it on, just to remember how I stood in it, how I felt in it, how someone saw me, not as a wife, not as a mother, not as a chore to be managed, but as a woman. And sometimes that's all it takes to come back to life. Even if only for a moment.